Hi, I'm Simon, Service Development Manager, and I'm going to be talking to you today about the new model that we've brought in order to support the sandwiches that'll be going out there, what you'll need to be doing to control costs within the kitchen, and how that's going to be affecting your schools. As some of you will be aware that we've actually introduced a new guaranteed surplus to some of your schools. So when it comes to the new model that we've got in place, some of you will be aware that when we budget for secondary schools, obviously we assume that there's a target number of meals that will be produced. That target meal number is what all the budgets are based on, and although we'll have some movement in meal numbers throughout the year, you'll be used to adjusting your budgets accordingly. Because ultimately, what sits behind that target meal numbers comes with a target profit margin within the schools. Now, for most of you, that profit margin will have been set as the management fee in the past, but some of you will also be aware that as of this year, we've introduced two models within schools, one which provides a management fee that we would claim, which is targeted at those schools which we don't expect to produce a surplus. But for those schools where we are producing a surplus, what we're trying to do is to introduce a more modern retail offer where we can actually have a profit margin that we can take from meal growth and guaranteeing a certain level of surplus that we can return to the customer. That's quite exciting because it offers an opportunity for growth that we've not been able to see before, and introducing the sandwiches is a key component within that. So in order to de-risk secondary meals for clients, for those ones who have got that guaranteed surplus, what we've said is that if your meals dip within 90% of the target meal numbers, we'll continue to provide that guaranteed surplus. And that provides a bit of financial security to secondary schools and a bit of an incentive for them as to why they should be opting into this new model that we have going forward. However, if those numbers drop by more than 10%, i.e. if you get to 85% of meals that you've budgeted for, we'll revert to the actuals model, which will be familiar to many, if not all of you, as something that we've been operating for the past few years. Key within this will be any sales that we have going through. As sales go up, once they go above actually that target number of meals line, will start to actually receive profit. So really, those target meals are what we've got for guaranteeing a surplus for the customer. Once your meal numbers and your sales start to go above that green line, that's where we start to get profit. And ideally, we should be getting those sales numbers to increase to the point where we can hit that profit margin in the orange dotted line above. However, what is key as well is that we need to actually increase sales and increase the number of efficiencies to go beyond the originally budgeted profit margin. And the reason behind that is in introducing this new model, in bringing sandwiches into schools, we're taking a little bit of a risk. And because we're taking on a bit of a risk, we need to have the reward coming back from that. So we need to see increased profit margins from those increased sales coming through. And actually, the sandwiches offer a great opportunity to do that because it's a new, exciting, vibrant product, which the team have worked really, really hard to make sure it's something that fits into the current trends. So in terms of actual sales numbers, we feel confident that as long as you're able to sort of work with the schools, work with the marketing support that's going to be out there for you, you'll be able to get increased sales going through your school as uptake increases. However, and there's always a however, those new sandwiches that we've brought in have assumed that no labour is required for production. Now, many of you will have already noticed, if you have got the sandwich trial already in place, that the cost of sandwiches is higher than your food production cost. And the reason it's higher than your food production cost is because there's an element of labour that's already included in purchasing those sandwiches because they've been made elsewhere. That means as sandwich numbers increase in your school, and we really hope that we will see sandwich numbers increase, in order to compensate for the increased food costs that you have going through, you'll need to be reducing the amount of labour that you have in your sites. Now, this is true both for those schools who have a guaranteed surplus and for schools who are operating on actuals. In both of your schools, you'll need to make sure that you are controlling the labour which is going through to compensate for any increase, because the offset of this is, as you can see from that checkered bar popping up just there, if you don't control the labour that's going through, the number of sales that will be required in order to hit the profit margin that we've assumed will be even greater. So effectively, without controlling labour, the more sales you'll need and the harder it is to go and get the profit margins that we're anticipating. That's particularly something that needs to be looked at within those schools where we have a guaranteed surplus in place, because for those ones with your guaranteed surplus, if we don't hit those numbers, our profit margins will drop because we are still guaranteeing, as long as sales are within 10% of target, to hand that money back to the customer. If we end up hitting those sales numbers, but our kitchen costs are too high, we could stand to make a loss, and that's a risk. There's a reward there, absolutely, and I really want to focus on the opportunity for reward is greater profits if we manage to get this right. But if we're not controlling those kitchen costs, we are more exposed to risk. For those of you who are on actuals, there's less of a risk there for the customers, but really, one of the things that we need to be conscious of is that in order to maintain the customers that we've got, in order to really grow the secondary market that we have, we want to be doing absolutely everything that we can to get those schools to the point where they can be in a position to deliver a surplus to customers. So again, we've got a great offer coming through, so doing everything that we can to manage those costs is absolutely critical in order to make sure that we can hit those profit margins. So ultimately, with the introduction of the new sandwich offer, there is an opportunity for greater reward. It's a very, very exciting product. Those of you involved with the trial will have already seen them flying off the shelves, but there's also a requirement for greater vigilance from operational teams to understand what's actually going through the tills. What is the sales mix that you have that you're selling on a daily basis? What are the different profit margins that you've got against a hot meal, against a sandwich? And as sandwich uptake increases, are you reducing your labour to compensate for the fact that you're not having to produce sandwiches on site anymore? If you're able to be vigilant to that and able to control the labour going through there, I've got every confidence that we can make a resounding success out of this. And we're going to be doing everything that we can to provide you with information on trends and performance within your schools. But that needs to be matched up against that day-to-day observations from yourselves and from your own teams, because you are the ones who are seeing things as they are happening in real time. And that information and that knowledge and your expertise is going to be critical in getting us to where we need to be as a service. Thank you. Unfortunately, this is pre-recorded. I won't be able to take any questions on this, but I'm sure that the team will be able to take any questions that you have following on from this. And if there are any that they can't answer, I trust that they'll be feeding them back to me so we can send through any answers to questions that we can't answer in this session. Thank you.